The New York Islanders fall back to earth in a poor offensive performance, losing to the Ottawa Senators 2-0. We'll talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we'll have our weekly farm report. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gil Martin here, and welcome everybody to the Wednesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Well, it was fun while it lasted, wasn't it? Islanders' 3-game winning streak is over. They fall to the Ottawa Senators 2-0 in a game that had maybe a couple of highlights, but a lot of problems that just reared their ugly head again. Let's start with the good news, and this won't take as long, perhaps, as the bad news, but let's at least start there. Patrick Waugh decides Ilya Sorokin not 100% healthy. Marcus Hogberg gets his second straight start in between the pipes for the New York Islanders. Hogberg faces 25 shots in this game and makes 24 saves. That's a .960 save percentage. He did a good job all throughout this game of keeping the New York Islanders in the game. And, you know, that was maybe the highlight because Hogberg did his job. He played well and gave the Islanders every opportunity to get back in this game and tie it up. The other really good piece of news, well, congratulations to Marc Gatcomb. He was called up on an emergency basis by the Islanders early on Tuesday morning when they found out that J.G. Pageau came down with the illness that seems to be going around the Islanders' locker room. So Gatcomb gets the call and makes his NHL debut. He played 7 minutes and 27 seconds of ice time, had 4 hits, 1 block shot, 1 takeaway, won his only faceoff. Can't say he, was out there for a long period of time and changed the outcome of the game, but he didn't look out of place. His parents were in attendance, so that was great to see. And, he made his NHL debut at the age of 25. So congratulations to Marc Gatcomb. And good to see him get the call up. I know a lot of people were wondering why it wasn't one of the more offensive-minded players down in Bridgeport, Liam Foudy, Karlstrom. But I think with Pageau being the player out of the lineup, the Islanders felt they wanted more of a bottom 6 kind of a guy who could fill in and help out. And that's why they went with Marc Gatcomb. And in the end, they moved Pierre Engvall and Casey Cizikas up to the third line. And they had Gatcomb, Martin, and McLean on the fourth line in this game. So congratulations to Marc Gatcomb. Maybe the only other piece of good news, Matt Martin dropped the gloves and won his fight. That was maybe one of the few highlights. He went toe-to-toe with Zach McEwen. And even though McEwen is taller and bigger than Martin, Martin is an experienced NHL pugilist. And he did what he had to do to win the fight. But the excitement kind of stops very soon after that. Oh, yeah, one other piece of good news. Ottawa appeared to score early in this game. Patrick Waugh challenged for goaltender interference, and he won the challenge. So that was the good news. And now the bad news. The New York Islanders faced an Ottawa Senators team that they're fighting for a playoff spot with, and they were down by the third period to 4 defensemen. Thomas Chabot only played 4:04, 6 shifts. In the first period, he's out of the game due to an injury. Nicholas Matapalo plays 13:38. He is out. Basically, in the third period, Ottawa is more or less playing with 4 defensemen. Jake Sanderson of the Senators, 31 minutes and 46 seconds of ice time. Artem Zub, 24 minutes, 23 seconds of ice time. Their next 2 defensemen, Jensen and Clevin, 22 and 21 minutes and change. And the Islanders took advantage of it? Not at all. The Islanders' offense was MIA. And listen to these totals. And they got a little better at the end. But here we go. For the game, Bo Horvat, 0 shots. Anders Lee, 1 shot on goal. Kyle Palmieri. Anders Lee, 1 shot. Kyle Palmieri, 0 shots. Max Siplikov, 0 shots. 2 shots each for Matthew Barzal and Brock Nelson, many of which came only in the very closing seconds of the game. The Islanders forwards had 9 shots on goal in this game against a team that had 4 defensemen in the third period. And I'll tell you, I've been talking the last few days about the chart at the bottom of the screen. If you go to Yahoo Sports and go to their scoreboard, after they go through the statistics of both teams at the bottom, they have a shot chart. And it's like a little diagram of a rink, and it shows where both teams took their shots. I don't think you have to be a rocket scientist. In fact, if you know absolutely nothing about hockey and you just look at these charts, you could tell who won the game, even without the little dots that indicate that a goal was scored. The Islanders maybe had 3 high danger chances. I don't know how many second chance opportunities they have, but I know I don't need more than 1 or 2 fingers to count them. You are playing against a team that from the midway point of the first period was down 1 defenseman, and in the third period was down 2 defensemen. You're on a 3-game winning streak. You're coming back home, and you're going up against one of the teams that comes into this game just a handful of points ahead of you in the standings. In fact, entering this game, you're 4 points behind Ottawa. You win this game, and you're 2 points behind the Senators. And you're on a 4-game win streak. You're in front of your home fans. And the Islanders' offense just was on snooze. This isn't rocket science. Shoot the puck. Go to the net. Screen the goalie. Get into the dirty areas and battle for loose pucks. Get rebounds. Get deflections. Do the hard work that is necessary to win hockey games, especially when you're the New York Islanders and you don't have an Alexander Ovechkin and a Connor McDavid on your team, guys who are just natural snipers who are going to score 40, 50 goals a season. Austin Matthews, you don't have those guys, okay? You need to do the work to make it happen. And this team, for whatever reason, just did not do it. We talked, everydayers, you understand, we talked on this show just yesterday, talking about the importance of this 7-game homestand. And in particular, the 4 games you have against Eastern Conference teams that you're battling for playoff spots with. And Ottawa was one of those 4 teams. You have 2 games against Philadelphia and 1 against Columbus. Again, it shouldn't be hard to be inspired to get up for this game. They were flat. And it is just, there's no explanation anymore for why this team just doesn't have it. When the home crowd is so bored at a game that they're doing the wave, not because the game is, you're winning 6-0 and we're just having such a great time, but because you watch this game and there's just nothing happening. It's not a good look, folks. And I don't even want to get into some of the messages that went back and forth between me and the Locked On Senators, the Sens Central hosts, because, describing this game and some of the Senators fans talking to them on social media, exchanging messages on social media telling, wow, this is a boring hockey game. The Islanders had no spirit, no urgency, no oomph, and to be honest with you, no excuses. Okay, you don't have J.G. Pageau. Okay, no Alexander Romanov. You did get Isaiah George back. Hudson Fasching is still out of the lineup. But, guys, come on. You can't have situations where guys, like, you look up. I got a message on X during the game. Is Brock Nelson playing? It was in the 3rd period. Now, about 30 seconds after that, he got his first shot on goal. But come on. Oh, yeah. One other piece of good news. They killed the only power play that they faced. So they've killed 5 in a row over 3 games or 4 games. But hey, baby steps. You'll take it. We've got more to get to on today's show. We're going to have our hero and GOAT of this game. We'll have a little more analysis of it. We also have our weekly farm report on all things Bridgeport Islanders. All that coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Oh, a hard one for Islanders' birthday of the day, a Toronto native who was a 3rd-round pick of the Islanders in 1981 and played 10 games for the team. In 84-85, he was a center. Let's see if you can guess who it is. All that coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. One of my favorite memories was attending a concert last year. The energy and excitement were unforgettable. But now Game Time has made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite live events with their new feature, Game Time Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. One of my other favorite features on Game Time, the view from your seat. You go on the app, you get a panoramic view from your seat before you purchase the tickets, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So, wow. Hero and GOAT of the game. Hero, I got to go with Hogberg. I mean, I can give Marc Gatcomb a shout out for doing what he did well. But hero of the game, got to be Marcus Hogberg. He has done everything this team has asked him to do when he's been inserted into the lineup. And, I'm going to give you a little hot take here. Whether it's Marcus Hogberg or Semyon Varlamov, one of these backup goalies may have some trade value at the deadline. And if we know by the trade deadline that the Islanders are not playoff bound, trading one of them. Now, I know Varley has a no movement clause and you have to get him to waive it, but trading one of them for something isn't necessarily a bad idea if we know this team is not going to be hunting for the playoffs this year. Just saying. Go to the game. I got to go with Noah Dobson. And I hate picking on Noah Dobson. I'm tired of picking on Noah Dobson. But, on the goal that Hogberg did allow, it was a scramble. I mean, you had a player in front of the goal sitting there. And Noah Dobson did nothing to move Adam Gaudette out of the way. He just stood next to him. He did try to lift his leg so that Hogberg could see the shot, but, Gaudette, unattended, just left standing there, managed to deflect the puck and put it in the back of the net off Tyler Kleven's shot, and bingo, 1-0 midway through the second period. And then, Dobson was also on the ice for the empty net goal, and he took a dumb penalty. So, again, he had a giveaway, and again, he was on the ice far too much, 27 minutes and 13 seconds. You got to keep, I know you're missing Alexander Romanov, and I get it that Isaiah George may not have his stamina back, and Dennis Cholowski, I guess they don't have as much confidence in him as I think they should. But you can't have Dauber out there for 27 minutes. You can't. And his judgment, his hockey sense just is so inconsistent at best. And I'm being nice, I think, when I say the word inconsistent to describe his vision and his hockey sense and his play in his own zone. You've got to get on track. Dauber, please, we need you. This team is not going anywhere. Because you know what? I like Dennis Cholowski as a third pair defenseman who can be on the second power play. I like Isaiah George as a third pair defenseman who's steady and gets the job done. But there is no other player on this roster who can skate and who can create offense from the blue line like Noah Dobson. So if Noah Dobson is not playing well and is tired and is worn out, it ain't coming from anywhere else. Why is it so hard for this team to shoot the puck? I do not understand why they don't shoot. I mean, I could single out a couple of guys in a couple of specific instances, but why bother? It's a team-wide issue. And don't even get me started on this, the block shots. Because the Ottawa Senators paid the price. The Ottawa Senators, Artem Zub had 7 block shots for Ottawa. 7. Their defenseman alone had 17 block shots. And as a team, they had 23. The Islanders have to be more persistent, more urgent, play better on offense. You can't have your top guys with 2 shots or less. No Islander forward had more than 2 shots on goal in this game. None. And 7 forwards out of 12 had 0. You can't win that way. You cannot win that way. Wayne Gretzky said it best, and it's a cliche. You don't score on 100% of the shots you don't take. Last time I checked, if you don't shoot the puck, yeah, once or twice a year you could score off a crazy bounce if you don't shoot. But if you don't shoot the puck, it ain't going in often, folks. This team needs to want it more. This team needs to compete. The fans were booing the power play at one point, and deservedly so. And they were doing the wave because they were bored. This is not the way you play in front of your home fans. And I'll even take it a step further. Look at the numbers right now. The Islanders, who are in 8th place in the Metro, they're above 500 on the road, 10-9-5, above NHL 500. At home, they're 7-10-2. So out of 19 home games this year, the Islanders have won 7. 7. Folks, I hate to say it, this is not a playoff team. They're good enough to hang around, but it's not a playoff team. You want to make the playoffs, you got to take care of business at home. You got to win 2/3 of your home games, or at least 60% of your home games, and then be 500 on the road. Folks, this team is not consistent enough to end up with, 50 plus points in the second half of this season, and that's what they're going to need to make the playoffs. I just don't see it. They could put together a game or 2 or 3 of solid hockey. They can be inspired on occasion, but they're so inconsistent. They're just not good enough. And it's time, past time, quite honestly, to break this team up. You don't have to rebuild. You don't have to tear it down so that you only have 21-year-old players out there. No. You have 5, 6, 7 guys you could build around. But this group maxed out 3 or 4 years ago. And it's time for a change. It is time for a retool. And if it doesn't get done between now and this offseason, it's going to be much, much harder. All right, more to get to on today's show. We have our weekly farm report on all things Bridgeport Islanders, plus our Islanders birthday of the day. All that and more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday, but how can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed Sponsored Jobs puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. I've been in a spot where you need to hire like yesterday. The pressure is on, and every day without the right person is a setback. Well, that's exactly where Indeed Sponsored Jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. Now you could speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed, is all you need. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from our hosts, Steele and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Time for our weekly farm report, where we talk all things Bridgeport Islanders. They played 2 games in the last week, and, well, they didn't start off very well. On Friday night, they lost to the Providence Bruins by a score of 4-1 in Providence. And Chris Terry got a power play goal midway through the second period. Islanders took 35 shots, but only managed the one goal as they lost for the 8th straight time to the Providence Bruins. They are 0-8-0 against Providence this season. The good news, though, on Sunday, the Islanders came back home. They faced the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, and they scored a 5-0 win in that game. Henrik Tikkanen gets his first career AHL shutout in that one. He stopped all 21 shots. And Chris Terry, a 3-point night, 2 goals, 1 assist. He now has a point in his last 4 games. Liam Foudy, Brian Pinho, each with a goal and an assist, while Gamel Smith also scored. And finally, Bridgeport ended a 12-game losing streak at home. Boy, not easy to do that, but at least they ended the week on a high note and split the weekend's worth of games. Chris Terry still leads the team in assists with 22 and in points with 29, followed by Brian Pinho, who leads the team with 17 goals and has 27 points. Alex Jeffries, 8 goals and 22 points in 30 games. Liam Foudy, 10 goals, 9 goals each for Marc Gatcomb and Frederick Karlstrom. Matthew Maggio, 3 goals, 12 points in 29 games. William Dufour, 5 goals, 10 points in 30 games. As far as defensemen are concerned, Samuel Bolduc and Travis Mitchell, each with 11 points to pace the Blue Liners. Meanwhile, in goal, Jakob Skarek, a 3.29 goals against, an 891 save percentage, but his record is 4-10-1, mainly because he's playing in front of a team that is struggling to score. Bridgeport with the win. Well, they are no longer the team with the worst point percentage in the league. They have moved up to next to last. They are now 8-22-4 on the season. That is a 294 point percentage, and they are 13 points behind Springfield to try to get into 7th place in the Atlantic Division. And oh, did I mention Springfield has a game in hand. You take a look at the schedule, it's a very busy schedule this week. There is a game tonight at home for Bridgeport against the Springfield Thunderbirds. That's a 7 o'clock Eastern time start in Bridgeport. Then Friday night, the Syracuse Crunch come to Bridgeport. That's a 7 o'clock Eastern time start. And then Saturday, Springfield is back in Bridgeport. That's a 7 o'clock Eastern time start. Then Bridgeport is off on Sunday. They then travel to Springfield to take on the Thunderbirds on a Martin Luther King Day matinee Monday at 3:05 Eastern time. So 4 games this week for the Bridgeport Islanders. And if you want to catch some of the Islanders prospects in action before they reach the island, head on up to Bridgeport and catch that. Or you could watch all the games, home and road, on AHL TV. Don't forget, we do our weekly farm report on all things Bridgeport Islanders every Wednesday. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day, and today is the 62nd birthday of former Islanders center Ron Handy, the Toronto native, 5'11", $175, third-round pick of the Islanders back in 1981. Made his NHL debut with the Isles in 84-85, played 10 games, had a pair of assists with the Islanders, later played 4 games with the St. Louis Blues in 1987-88, and that was it for his NHL career, 3 assists in 14 games. Stayed active in pro hockey through the 1999-2000 season. One of his better games as an Islander, December 29th, 1984, the Islanders invading the St. Louis Arena in St. Louis to take on the Blues. Kelly Rudy, the Islanders goalie, Mike Liut in between the pipes. For the Blues, And just a minute and a half into the game, our Islanders' birthday of the day, Ron Handy, sets up Brian Trottier for a goal to make it 1-0 Islanders. Mike Bossy gets the other assist. The Islanders go on to beat the Blues by a score of 5-1. Rudy with 47 saves in this game. In a game, the Islanders were outshot 48-29. For our Islanders' birthday of the day, Ron Handy, he had an assist. He was a +1. He did not manage a shot on goal in this game, but you know what? Your first NHL point, if it's an assist on a goal by Brian Trottier and Mike Bossy got the other assist, well, that's pretty impressive stuff. So, happy birthday to Ron Handy. He is our Islanders' birthday of the day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Every dayers, we will be back tomorrow. We will preview tomorrow night's game against the Philadelphia Flyers at UBS Arena, another opponent that the Islanders are fighting for these wild card spots with. So hopefully the Islanders can actually get back to some winning ways against the Flyers. We'll also have the latest injury updates. If you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we talk about whatever's on your mind. You could also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis, and it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, and of course, let's go Islanders.